Please check out our sponsors NordVPN for the best in online security. It's the best VPN on the market, and you can try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee by visiting nordvpn.com/heartandhand. That's nordvpn.com/heartandhand, and it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar and as always I am your host, and I'm joined this week by the sage of Saltcoats himself, Andy McGowan. Hello Andy, how are we?
I'm a wee bit better than I was the past couple of weeks, Davey, I've got to say, so we're positive.
Good, because you know you are our ray of sunshine. You are the one that we tend to bring on. So this feels kind of novel this week, doesn't it, to be sitting here not absolutely raging about what we witnessed. Rangers, of course, I think our first win of the season against an SPFL Premier League side. So there's that. And we'll get into a lot of it. So first things first, Andy, just to kind of set the scene. You haven't been on for a few weeks, but for those who maybe aren't subscribers, you should be. They might not have heard your opinion on the site. Despite your reputation for unrelenting sunniness, I think you've also struggled to see where we were going this season under Russell Martin. Would that be fair to say?
It would be very fair. I mean, the live show, aimed it was a live show, would have had the full picture, the uncensored picture, but I had major concerns very, very early on, and I continue to have them, but you know, we'll discuss where we're at.
Well,
now.
With that in mind, then we'll start off with the atmosphere on Saturday, because there were a number of protests planned. We saw them first of all outside the stadium, where I'm shit at estimating numbers, but it looked a couple of thousand to me outside the ground, were protesting against Russell Martin and Patrick Stewart for the removal of both of those. Then in the ground, there were early on certainly some songs. There were banners in the Union Bears section. There was a 10 minutes in, I think there were a number of golf balls thrown onto the park, and I think that you know, you couldn't say that the point wasn't firmly made to the new owners. Andrew Kavanagh, of course, was there on Saturday. What's your thought then on fan protests, so to speak? And I mean, I'll just be up front. My view on it is, of course, fans are going to protest when things are as bad as they've been. And so long as they do it in the manner that they did, I don't see how anyone can have any problem with it. It was peaceful, it was organised, it got the point across, and it didn't, as far as I could see, cross any lines.
I mean, I'm not a protester by nature. It needs to be like a last resort. But you saw my post-match. I done a wee post-match video for my pals on Instagram when I was walking out the ground of Bruges. And if you'd said to me when I was walking out that ground, you know, get to main stand, get outside the main stand for Saturday, I'd have said absolutely. I wasn't at it, right? I was in the ground. I think everybody was right to do it. I think the time had come to actually make the voice heard, you know, where we are in the league, and more than that, what we've been watching, right? If there was green shoots, then I'd maybe make an argument of, you know, hold off, but there's been nothing, absolutely nothing. It's been terrible. So I think it was justified. If I'm being honest, Davey, I think the Patrick Stewart thing's a wee bit of conflation. I think that if we're serious about stability and stuff like that, then I think that it's the manager first, and then the football department second, and then the CEO third. And I know that might go against the grain for what a lot of people say and think, and that he appointed them. You can appoint the wrong manager, and it's no a cardinal sin, and we see it at football clubs all the time. It's how you react to the wrong appointment, is my take on it. And listen, another thing is, see when the game started, I know they made the point with the tennis boys. It's no my thing. I think we need to do what we have to do to make the team win. That could have spoiled the rhythm. But overall, Davey, the protest and the mood entirely justified. As long as it doesn't get personal, as long as it doesn't get a bit too vitriolic, then I've no issue with it. And going forward, right, we'll talk about the game and stuff like that. We can maybe round back to what happens going forward in terms of strategy, because I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that there's going to be a perseverance of Russell Martin and the plan in place. But we can talk.
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
certainly while we're winning, and at the end of the day, all anybody wants is that. That's all we want, is Rangers to be winning football matches. This is the thing. It's not any great secret. My view on protests are always, if a fan feels that they want to protest, they have the right to do so, as long as they do so in the right way, and they did. So no, I've absolutely no complaints about that. The big news on Saturday, Andy, was, of course, the return to the side of Nico Raskin. I think this situation has been very badly handled. I think this is another thing where Russell Martin, I think, should maybe take a step back and look at it. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Only they do. That's fair enough. Clearly, it wasn't something that was so bad that he was immediately sent out of the club. Clearly, there is a way back. I don't think they'll ever be pals, but they have obviously a working relationship. But it was hurting the team. It was hurting the side to not have him. We had a dysfunctional midfield, and Raskin can help that. And I think there's this thing, with the polarisation of online views, that if you're saying Nico should be in the team, one of the standard lines you get back is, well, he's after a good 6 months and we're treating him like he's Gaza. No, we are simply saying that he's one of our better players and the team isn't playing well and might benefit from having him in the side. But I think where Russell Martin has erred a bit is, his press conference a couple of weeks ago before the Celtic game, where he wouldn't say, and I think he did say, Nico is training, which was carefully put. He didn't say he was training with the team and whatnot. Then he wasn't in the squad, and then he has to regain the trust of his teammates and things like that. I just don't think it's been allowed to become a sideshow, and I think it's just better for. Most importantly, I think it's better for everyone, but most importantly, I think it's better for us, the supporters, the ones who really matter, that Raskin is playing. And of course, he gets the goal, but his all-round game at the weekend, I thought he was brilliant.
I thought he was excellent. I thought he was allowed to play his natural game. And I think it was telling in the post-match comments that Russell Martin said something along the lines of Diamandi was a lot more disciplined when asked about Raskin. Because I think what's been asked of Raskin in previous matches has been to be more disciplined and more rigid in what he can do. But he is a number 8 for me. And I think his best game is when he plays instinctively, covers a lot of ground, wins tackles, turns the ball around, moves forward with it, and I thought it was absolutely excellent. It was brilliant last season against Hibs in the last game of the season at Easter Road. I think it was one of his best games. I thought he was really good. And maybe the penny has dropped that you've got a Belgian international, right, sitting there. He has to be utilised. We're not good enough not to utilise him. And if there's been a bit of miscommunication or tete-a-tete on the training field or whatever, I mean, his dad tweeting stuff doesn't help, but he has to be in the team, and pride has to be swallowed on both sides. And I think they've got there. You're exactly right. How it was handled wasn't great, and he could have been. I mean, I think he should have just been on the bench. When he brought him back, what game was it? It was it a Celtic game? He could have brought him back.
Celtic, he wasn't in the ground.
Bench.
Celtic, he
wasn't in the ground. So a Hearts game, sorry.
In the stand.
So all he needed to do that day was put him on the bench, and that's a halfway house between he's had his medicine and I'm in charge, but the olive branch has been put out and grabbed. That would have done it. Plus, we could have used them, So I think it was been badly handled from start to finish, but we're past it now, and that hopefully on Saturday represents what's the word? A détente. The two of them can work together. That's a good word for me, Dave.
It's the absolutely perfect word for it. Yeah, and I think that quite clearly they're never going to be best as pals, but it's a situation where everybody kind of needs the same thing. Nico needs to be playing if he wants to go to the World Cup, which he does.
The World Cup, yeah.
Rangers need to be winning, and they have a better chance of doing so when not guaranteed, but a better chance of doing so when he's in the side. And Russell Martin needs wins to save his job. So for me, it's one of these ones where if there's any other outcome to it, then people are not using their head, or they're letting personal issues cloud judgment.
It becomes fatally damaging. Do you think it's to do with his contract situation?
No.
Because see, if the club are sitting looking at it 2 years to go, let's get him sold, and that's probably the right thing. But you don't think that?
100%. I don't know. I don't think it's. There was an interpersonal thing.
Right.
I don't know what was said, but it is. And so long as adults being adults, you don't need to be best pals. I mean, God, I'd love to. We'd all love, I'm sure, in our career history to have worked in a place where we liked every single person in the building, but it doesn't happen very often. And you still you need to get on with it. At the weekend, then taking on Hibs. Now, I'll be very honest with you here, Andy. I was concerned going into this game because I thought the way we were playing and the fact that the way Hibs play, I thought could present us problems. In that they get the ball forward really quickly because they've got pace through Martin Boyle. And he's very, very quick. They also have somebody in Bowie who could hold the ball up. I did think if we could, that you can get at their defence, but we would have to improve dramatically from what we'd seen the last few weeks. And the first half, Rangers were better. The energy was higher. Trying to get the ball forward, I thought, a bit quicker. Wasn't coming on. We weren't creating a lot in that first half, it's fair to say. And we got, well, can you call it a break? Because a foul is a foul is a foul. Now, Hibs looked as though they'd taken the lead, and it was that route that we'd feared, long ball over the top. I did hear some supporters saying, Cornelius looked really slow there. I think Boyle is really quick. And what you're saying there is Cornelius isn't as quick as Martin Boyle. No, he's not. That's Boyle's biggest strength. But I must admit, initially I didn't see anything. It was on my blind side. I was in the main stand side, obviously, so couldn't see anything. And when it went to VAR, I assumed offside, and I thought, no, he was in his own half when he started running, and then it was ruled out. But when you see it back, he quite clearly handles the ball. It comes off his arm, and he gains an advantage from it, which leads directly to him scoring. Because if he doesn't do that, the ball doesn't sit perfectly for him to run on and shoot. That's why I'm loath to use the phrase, well, we got away with one, because we didn't. It was a foul. And because we didn't get one last week that was, if anything, more obvious, because that one I was sitting in the ground going, he handled it. What is going on here? He clearly handled it. And the player is on the park going, I handled it to his teammate. Couple of questions then. One, do you agree with me that it's Stonewall foul? And two, do we get that if there hadn't been the fuss over the Shankland one and the apology and announcement from the KMI the day before that the decision was unanimously wrong?
Aye, it was a right decision, right? Because as you say, fine margins, it kills the ball, right? If it hadn't hit his hand and the hand had a bit of give because it was off his cushions it perfectly, and if it wasn't for that, then who's to say that it wouldn't have made a difference and knocked it closer to Cornelius? Do we get that if Shankland doesn't happen last week? There's doubt over it. There is major doubt, because this is an example of VAR working correctly, right? It's been so bad in terms of, I mean, the weekend before was in the day, wasn't it? It was so many critical, game-changing, league position-changing decisions that they got wrong, and it really was embarrassing. And you've got to ask questions of the whole structure and column and everything else, because it's not getting any better. However, I think that they must have looked at that to make sure there was nothing there. And did we get away with one? Do you know what? We and Russell Martin were due a break. He's needed a break of any sort. He didn't get it against Celtic, the offside goal, stuff like that. I think we take what we're given now, because that was absolutely deserved. If you want to get into the kind of superstitious and luck and everything else, because if they score there, then we're up against it again. And I felt to get anything out of the game or to win, it's a cup tie. Obviously, I thought we had to score first. No, that sounds obvious, but just the way we're playing, the confidence, everything else, it's imperative that we scored first. So to get away with that, in inverted commas, was most welcome, but probably a big break that we've not had at any point this season.
But you still need to seize advantage on it. And we would then go in and do that. Just before we do, it was interesting. I saw David Martindale at Livingston. Just in case people think, is it just us, or are we the only ones that are thinking this? His a penalty that was given against them. He says, this can't keep happening. It can't. It's me that's affected this week. It'll be somebody else next week. Rangers, Kilmarnock, Celtic benefit, Hearts benefit. It can't keep happening. We're paying millions of pounds for people to make decisions using footage, and they still seem to be getting it wrong. It's really hard sitting here as a manager. That's the frustrating aspect. In all honesty, we should be coming away from here with a point. When you're using the footage, how are we getting decisions wrong when we're looking at them from multiple camera angles? That's what I don't understand. I'm perplexed. I think it comes down to the individuals who's in charge of making these decisions. I don't think that's Willie's fault. It's difficult to see if VAR is making the game any better. That's the thing, right? If I don't particularly like VAR, right? And I've mentioned before, I don't like the waiting to celebrate a goal. I think it's taken away some of the simple joy of that, as you have to wait to see if it's confirmed. But it's here to stay, and I understand that. But he is right how are they getting these things wrong? And where I disagree with him is, I do blame Willie Collum, because how can he have, last week, for example, with the Hearts opening goal, how can he have trained and paid, let's not forget, they're no volunteers, a referee on the park, a referee in the VAR, and an assistant VAR all sit and look at that and think, that's fine? How can they have, with the penalty incident at Rugby Park, how can there be 3 or 4 officials, I think there's actually another one as well in the VAR room, who look at that and go, that's a penalty? It's either an issue of training, of competence, or of bias, none of which are a good look for Willie Collum.
And if you were to demote these guys, which is supposedly the kind of unspoken thing that happens if you have a poor performance, we'd end up with no referees. And
which I think is the SFA's issue, is like they're so reluctant to do anything about it, or to even be seen in any way to criticise the referees, because they're so scared they'll quit because there's so few coming through, which is a bigger issue. But it's still leading to not only wrong decisions, but so wrong, where it's not interpretation, it's not subjective, it's literally you can't come away with the decision you've come away with there. It's just not possible to reach that.
Yeah. Column is a problem. We had a chance to change the culture and the jobs for the boys culture when we had the English guy in the mix for that job, and he never got it. And at that point I thought, nothing's going to change, right? And this isn't me saying, Column's bias or whatever. I just think that there's a culture of acceptance of standards, and the standards aren't high enough. You're exactly right. How can you get so many eyes on it with such good footage and still get things wrong? I mean, the Rugby Park penalty for me is the one, because of the time of the game it's in. That is going to win the game. And I just wonder what goes through officials' minds at that point. And I think you can get what I'm getting at, because there's been for best part of a decade now, some noise around refereeing officially, and it's came from Celtic, right? The most vociferous noises have come from Celtic. Their chairman, their AGMs have centred around it, and some of it's been pretty hyperbolic, and it's been pathetic, really, because when you look at the stats, then they've got the least they complain about. And I do think that also what's went on in the past in terms of referees' private life is it's got to colour something. I'm not saying every decision, but I just find that a wee bit worrying. And this KMI thing, I applaud the fact that they do that. I applaud the fact that Colum faces it up with Gordon Duncan on the telly. Is it Sky that does it? Because he must have known at some point, this could work against us if we are doing this every bloody week, which is what it tends to feel like. Every week they're saying, that was wrong, that was wrong, that was wrong. So they need to get more right than they get wrong. I'd settle for that at this moment in time as progress.
It's just huge match-changing decisions. And that's the thing, I think Rangers were absolute garbage against Hearts. I really do.
Hearts,
Right, but even so, you still want a fair playing field, and we didn't get it. But yeah, it's an ongoing issue, I think, and I wish I had a quick and easy answer, but I don't. But we'll move back to the game then at the weekend. Rangers stepped it up just before half time and found ourselves going in at 2-0, 2-0 up, because first of all, Nico Raskin, the new Alex McDonald, he is so good at that. That timing of the run, the timing of the leap, and guiding the header. And it was on a great corner and absolutely bulleted home, because if you get that contact there, no keeper saving that, and it's too far. It comes at you too quick. It's just not possible to do anything about it. But that, I think, is like the fourth time I've seen him score that goal. It's the old thing about people who always say, for a wee guy, he's 5'10", by the way. He's not that wee. But people will always say that, for a smaller guy in the box, the reason is that heading, like everything else, is a skill. And you can be tall and not that good in the air. It's about timing your jump. It's about getting the run on people, which is a skill in itself. Getting free to go and attack it, because if you're blocked or you find yourself in traffic, you're not going to be able to get the run and generate the power. But he's very, very good at it. And when that goal went in, you just thought, oh, it had to be you.
Aye, I mean, you can't defend that. I know it's a cliche. You cannot defend that. Brilliant delivery. You get a run on your man at your front post. Any contact that is on target is likely to end up in a goal. And he has got this knack for it. And one thing that I have accused him in the past is not scoring enough goals. I don't really care how he scores them. So if it's for set pieces, that'll do nicely. Joe Aribo used to do something similar with the front post, didn't he? He used to do a wee flick on. So, a word for Tavernier. At the start of the season, we didn't have the team, and I thought, okay, Aarons is in the team. They're trying to bed him in, but I thought that we missed his finesse for set pieces. We didn't. I know Rothwell was trying to step in to do it, but Tavernier's still far and away the best delivery in the whole squad by a country mile for me, and it was a brilliant corner. And when he scored, I'm not taking sides, right? I can see why Martin's cracked a whip with it, right? Even if I'm saying he's handled it wrong, a manager's only as good as the authority he has, and sometimes you get tested like that. So I never ever take a player's side against the manager. I very rarely do. But there was a bit of a sweet irony in there that, we all know, having watched Rangers last season, which Martin is supposed to have done, right? If he's got through interviews, I'm presuming he's coming with a lot of knowledge of what we looked like last year. He had to know that this guy was central to everything that good that happened to us last year, whether it was domestic or Europe. So if he adds that to his game, brilliant. But his all-round game, as I've said already, a number 8 is his natural way of playing, using his energy. And I thought it transformed the way we played. We can talk about Cornelius coming in, giving us a bit of balance and stuff like that. I thought it completely transformed the way, the philosophy, the style, the setup, whatever you want to call it. It changed everything.
Yeah, suddenly Rangers were playing with a verve and confidence and making chances. And we get one a few minutes later, chipped in ball, I think it was Raskin, and then Mikey Moore is the shot. From there, it's cleared, but it breaks straight to Bojan Miovski, who's doing what all good strikers do: get yourself in the middle of the goals, be ready for anything, and it's there. Always important for a striker to get that first one, Andy, and it doesn't matter if it's a 25-yarder or that a tapper. I actually, having played up front, I like those goals because they're it's not luck, right? People might say, the ball falls still. It's no luck. Ali McCoy's got lucky a hell of a lot then. It's about putting yourself in the position to score. And one of my main gripes, actually, with a lot of modern strikers is they do a lot of their work out on the wings or dropping deep. That's where you get goals. Middle of 6-yard box, alive, first to react. And even though it's not the most spectacular goal he'll ever score, I loved it.
No, I'm delighted to see him because it's a monkey off his back. You sign for Rangers, you're a striker, you're the main striker, you're taking off your dressers, and if he goes 3, 4, 5 games without a goal, which, let's face it, we would have probably said was a fair expectation with the amount of chances we weren't making for him. So his score was brilliant, and as you say, if he's in between the sticks, then that's where to be. Probably want to mention Mikey Moore here because, don't know about you were obviously in the press place, but he was getting a bit of stick, right? and
I mean,
I'll
the
pull that
press
together.
bit isn't away from it. I mean, it's at the front of
Is it you hear
it's
it?
a gantry. It's the front of the main stand. I mean,
So
above the enclosure,
and
you hear
was he
it.
getting
Yes.
stick? Was he getting stick?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Right. So I'm not going to defend him, but I'm going to bring up a point I think is pretty important, because if we're going to brickbat Russell Martin for formation style, philosophy, all this kind of stuff, then there's a couple of things that were glaring to me, right? And I'm no some kind of UEFA licensed coach or anything like that, but I was watching it and I was like, no, I know why this is happening. Stop moaning. So the first was Cornelius. You said earlier on, folks saying it was slow. We will press up very, very high. That's the whole point. If we're going to contain teams in their own half, you need to press up high. That's why it happens. It's more a symptom of not being able to afford an all-round centre half with blistering pace as well, rather than anything else. But with Mikey Moore, Davey, he wasn't having a great game. He had a couple of wee faux pas on the ball. But if you remember back to the Hearts game, he was losing the ball all the time. He was actually causing us major problems because he would cut in, lose the ball, and would be on a counter, and they get hooked at half time. So I was kind of surprised to see him back in the team on Saturday. But what he did well on Saturday was he was much more careful and considerate with the ball. He wasn't giving it away, albeit he wasn't creating much. But did you not notice that the Tavernier and him thing, they weren't committing too far down the line. They weren't overlapping each other, and Moore was being asked to underlap. And then on the other side, Magoma, who I thought had a great game, by the way, and Gassama, who was
I
excellent,
thought on left-hand side was very good.
Brilliant. But it was offset by the right-hand side just being that wee bit more conservative, and the underlapping for Moore was to come inside, because we were expecting him to beat the man, go outside, get to Byron, all the rest of it, but he'd clearly been told. And that's how we got that goal, because he came inside. So what I'm trying to say here is that we can't simultaneously say the system doesn't work, it's rubbish, it's crap, and then no acknowledge when there's wee things like that which aren't natural to us, because we just think winger, beat your man, get the ball in. It's no like that. I thought he did what he was asked pretty damn well, and for an 18-year-old under the pressure that team was under the circumstances, I thought he contributed. And then the other thing is why we're not playing Finlay Curtis. That was the other thing that was on social media on Saturday night. I can see why folks say that, but the two of them are in the same boat, and the two should be afforded the same slack, because if we get them developed and up to speed and confident, they'll be two really top-class assets for us.
But Moore won't be an asset for us.
Well, for this season, which is the be on the end all,
I know what you mean, but I can understand when people. I think if you're bringing in someone like that fans expect them to be brilliant, because otherwise they're keeping out someone, in this case Curtis or Ant-Man, both of whom are our players. It goes back to, do you remember when Joe Worrell was here? And the manager really seemed to prefer him over Katic, and the supporters we couldn't quite understand it. And if Moore was being brilliant week in, week out, then it would be easy. You go, fair enough, he's a brilliant player. And that hasn't been the case so far, but the manager seems to prefer him. I thought he did all right at the weekend. But I do think there will always be that underlying thing of when he doesn't have a good game, why is he playing when we've got boys there who could benefit for the time? So, I mean, I can understand that, because you've got two players there, Ant-Man and Curtis. Ant-Man started well, went off the boil a bit, although I thought he looked really good on Saturday when he came on.
He did.
And Curtis hasn't let anyone down in any of his appearances so far.
No, I think Curtis is getting the goals, obviously. I think that's put a wee bit of sheen on his performances. I don't think he's been stellar on the ball or anything like that, and he's been positive, and I've no criticism of him. But I would put him and Moore in the same boat in terms of how we need to react and how we need to treat him, because I thought it was getting a wee bit OTT on Moore, certainly around about where I was sitting.
And I think as well,
and we need them to work for us.
Certain players get identified with a manager for good or for bad, and in this case I think Moore and Rothwell have been strongly identified with Russell Martin in a way that I don't think has been for the other ones. Another guy I want to pick out is Tello Asgard. Now you look at him, just he's big, he's tall, he's strong, imposing, and you think you look like someone who could be very, very useful to this team. I think we saw at the weekend for really the first time, I think, consistently throughout a game. There's been moments of, right, I get what he's there to do, because he is big and strong, he holds the ball, he wins the ball, but he can move. And when he turns, which again he's good at, and drives forward and then plays the ball out to the wingers, it's different to what we've been doing if the ball's been getting to the winger, it's been coming via centre-back to full-back to winger. They've got two in front of them. When he's turning and breaking and slipping it to them, they're one-on-one. That's a huge difference. And I thought Gassama in particular showed the difference it makes.
I thought Asgard was really, really good. It kind of goes back to I've been saying, look, recruitment, it's too early to make any definitive assessments on recruitment.
But here I'm just about to...
include that. Including Aarons and stuff like that, right? I don't think there's any player can say, I've been allowed to show up well, given what we've had so far this season, right? But in Asgard, you can see, even against Celtic, that he had the ability to hold a player off, which stood out for the rest of the team, right? I'd like to have a team full of players of that kind of stature. But what I thought he'd done brilliantly on Saturday was he was always available for a pass, and it was a forward pass, if you know what I mean. So the centre halves or Raskin or Diamandi, he was operating that line in between their midfield and their defence, and he was doing it pretty well, although he kind of tends to go on the left-hand side. And you see he's got great feet, and he turns. I think we'll get a couple of shots off him this season. I think it could be a goal-scoring threat from
he
outside
definitely
the box for us.
I mean, he's shown that.
A lot more to come for him.
I think so. That was a bit, but again, you can see why he's here, what he does.
Yeah,
and it is such a difference. If you get the ball to the wide man and he's 10 yards further forward from the halfway line with two in front of him, you're asking a lot to even get a cross in. If you get it to him when he's 15 yards further forward, one-on-one, well, he's not going to go by the man every time, but he only needs to do it two or three.
And that is what Martin's been trying to preach. And, what we did know is that the kind of patience aspect was don't get to your wingers until they're in the most optimal position. And we've seen that in Saturday, and we kind of take it for granted as if it's just something that's naturally happening, but it's part of the game plan. So that was a green shoot, if you like, of what's meant to happen. The one thing I will say is against Celtic, he was neutralised by the way we deployed him because we sat him on McGregor, which he did brilliantly actually because McGregor never got. Asgard, I'm talking about, sorry. So it'll be interesting to see going forward, semi-final now, we know that's coming. How do we get him working for us whilst neutralising their fulcrum, which is McGregor? So that's one for you to think on, Mr. Martin.
That's one that needs balance. And really the only thing about the second half is Hibs did not threaten, bar a couple of crosses that Butland came and dealt with, no problem. Hibs did not threaten. And what Rangers were able to do for the first time this season domestically, because we were 2 up, a team had to come out a little bit, which meant that the centre-backs could sit on the ball and wait for them to come out rather than have to drive forward into them and try and make passes. Cornelius looked very comfortable, I thought, all afternoon, which was good to see. But in the second half, disappointment was that Rangers didn't add to the tally because we had one off the line, we hit the bar, we made the keeper make another 2 really good saves. Moores put one just past the post. There was another one that was just past the post. And Hibs didn't threaten. And it's too simple to say, look what confidence does, but look what confidence does.
It worked on Saturday, and I think the first goal helps us because Hibs were playing with 3 at the back, but when they were defending it was 5 because Mulligan and Cadden dropped in line with their defenders. And what you're talking about there in the second half, which is patient play and saying, right, well, come and get the ball off us, you need to make the game happen, presses. We were much, much better at being able to play through it. Raskin being central to it. You're talking about Asgard in front of him then again. Diamandi was all right. He had a couple of misplaced passes, but he did his role and obviously balanced off the Raskin and Asgard. So what we saw on Saturday was the first time, even better than Pilsen, was the system working. And this is when I'm saying we can't simultaneously be saying that just because what have I been saying, Davey? I've been saying I think it's fatally flawed. I think this system's fatally flawed and it can't work. And Saturday kind of says to me, no, Andy, you're maybe wrong. But there was big differences. The tempo's night and day, and your centre halves were moving the ball. It all started with that, and I think they were moving the ball because they had Raskin in front of them, and that changed the dynamic. Whereas before we've had Giga, we've had Suter, and they've been literally standing their foot in the ball, waiting for something to happen, waiting for a movement. It never came, and teams were finding it quite easy. So Saturday, I thought we outfoxed Hibs because they came with a game plan. And listen, Hibs are people saying, "Oh, Hibs are shite."
Yeah, they're
No,
good
they're
side.
shite. They've been
they're
doing
a
all
good
right,
side.
and they've got good delivery for wide. Mulligan's been ramping it up. You've got a young striker there that folk were telling us to sign for multi-millions. And they've been relatively confident. So to do what we did to them on Saturday, we've got to take some confidence from it, and there's got to be not only belief in the team, right? And I'll stop for a second, because what I really took for Saturday was it's not a team that stopped playing for the manager. It was a team that had belief in what they were being told to do, and it went on. The tempo went on for nearly 90 minutes. I thought the tempo was excellent from start to finish. So that is one for me to now say, well, actually, it can work. Okay, it's only one game and all the rest of it, but it can work. And when it works, it's actually not bad and it's quite entertaining, and we should add more. Because as you say, you've got Gisama hitting the bar with some fantastic work. You'd Ant-Man with an almost brilliant solo. And you'd Big Chermity should have scored.
Nope,
He was
and
put
the
through.
one off the line, Hanley cleared one off the line as well, and then Moore's shot.
I can't remember that one.
There were loads of opportunities in the second half. But yeah, I mean, let's not get the hand lotion and start tossing each other off yet. It's one game, and we need to be aware of it. And that is the thing, because we didn't get into this position overnight. We won't get out of it overnight. The manager still remains. Now, he's not going to get sacked, obviously, after a win. They don't want to sack him. I've said this on other shows. They're not looking for reasons to fire the manager. They're looking for reasons to keep him, and he provided one at the weekend. But it is game to game. That's all I think anybody, Rangers playing squad, Rangers management, the owners, the supporters, it's all we can look. We are game to game at the moment, and we have Genk next up. Now, Andy, I think, ever underrate Europe, and I think sometimes that we can underrate our achievements in it in the last few years because of our domestic paucity of trophies. So, but nor do I go into games with unrealistic expectations. Maybe it's the whole child in the 90s thing, having watched Rangers teams in this struggle so badly, that I always treat these sides with respect. But with respect, I would expect Rangers to beat Genk. And I don't think that is an at home, I don't think that is an unreasonable expectation, given their form as well this season. This is not a team that's coming here that's absolutely purring. They will, of course, point to the same with us, but I think this is a game we should be winning, and I'd be very disappointed if we didn't.
It's a game that we can use to our advantage for more than just 3 points in the Europa League. It's so we know the Belgian league, right? We'll just get scudded off Bruges. USG had a good result, and Genk. And what I'm trying to say here is the Belgian league's pretty high just now. It's doing okay, and their teams have a decent quality. So it'll not be an easy game, but as you say, at home at Ibrox with a decent crowd, it'll not be full for various reasons, but
better than it was going to be on Friday, I'll tell you that.
Well, this is it. And the team should be relatively confident. We should be winning, and you might find that again against a team that isn't quite as deep as the domestic teams we're facing, like Hearts did. I think we should be looking to win, obviously, but my problem is, and my wee worry is that I think you see how teams get in front of us, a through ball or a ball over the top. We saw it with the Boyle goal. You've seen it umpteen times this season where teams just seem to cut through us too quickly. What's the phrase I like to use? Vertical passing, a straight ball. So I think we've got a weakness there, and that's what worries me when we face better opposition in Europe. If we can get that sorted, then we've got a chance. And do you know, Davey, and I know it sounds obvious, and I'll not be a Rangers fan, it doesn't think this. I just wish we would get a really, really good result, score a few goals, and just pick up for there and go on a run. Because I think that's it's what's going to need to happen. It's going to feel like snakes and ladders for Russell Martin, because you'll have 3-4 games. Let's say we do that unbeaten, and then we get beat, and it'll be back to far off square one in many people's minds. Personally, I've I don't know if the word's resigned or made my peace, but I agree completely with you. I think they're going to persevere. Persevere might be the wrong word, but they're going to keep going with the plan in place. And that's where we need to decide as a support of, we've got to be smart about it. There's no point going into self-sabotage mode when we're wanting something that's just not going to happen because the owners have made a decision. Or do we help the team, right? It's no surrender to the
bad decisions by the
concept.
board.
Yes.
No, that's where I disagree, because it's like, no.
Right, you tell me.
No, I know what you're saying, right? But I think that, first of all, it's about utopian, right? That everybody just goes with a manager that, by the way, if we're winning every week from now, and even the people who really don't like him will put it to the back of their throats. It won't be coming out. So there's an easy way around this, if you like, for Russell Martin, which is start winning games. The reason he's getting this is because Rangers haven't won anyone nearly close to enough. But the idea that fans go, oh, well, they're not going to sack him, therefore I'm just going to come in and I'm going to act like a member of the fucking Melchester Rovers crowd. Come on, lads. Best foot forward. It's not going to happen.
I'm not saying that.
We need to go in there with rattles, and we need to fucking, our big rosettes.
What I'm meaning is, right,
you want Brownings the baker up the main street and go in to be baking a Russell Martin red, white and blue cake. That's what you're after here.
And wearing rosettes.
News.
What no, what I'm meaning is, right, see, during games, just I think the best protests are after games when things have went tits up.
Yeah, I mean, they're always the ones that get the most joined into. Although I once got a row. Do you remember we lost 3-0 to Hibs in 2006? Do you remember?
Yes.
And after the match,
the Sproul game.
What? Sorry, no, it's not a Sproul game. It was a cup game.
No.
I think good friend of the pod, Kevin Thompson, done his knee in it. But then Kev done his knee every 20 minutes, so it's
every week.
It's hard to remember that by that. But after the game, I was walking with Scott, who was on the pod, and Dingwall, and as we walked round, people would gathered outside the main door, and more joined them, and we were literally standing there watching, and then we went, as I would do back in those days, I'm away to the pub. So went to the pub that night. I got home, a few pints in, David Murray on the phone. He's like, that was you. And I'm like, what? He's like, that was you organised that protest. What are you talking about? And he's like, I was looking out the blue room and I saw you. And I says, I was at the side. He went, aye, at the side orchestrating it. And now remember, folks, this is the day before smartphones, right? And I was like, how do you think I organised it in the 3 minutes from the final whistle to walking round? What do you think I did? Sent smoke signals? But no, it was totally my fault. I'd like to place on the record there, folks, I did not organise that. That was a spontaneous one. And as Andy says, they're the ones when you're absolutely fucked, because that's when the rank and file all go. Because there's no other option. But hopefully we'll not need them. Hopefully we'll win on Thursday. And Cammy will be here on Friday, and he'll go over what happened in that game and look ahead to the trip to Livingston at the weekend. I didn't get Livingston. Can you fucking believe that? Gold my jersey and I didn't get Livingston.
I get one, but I'm looking for another one in case.
If anyone's listening, Andy's looking for another one. But I did get Motherwell, right? But Livingston. Everybody gets Livingston. Even folk that don't apply get Livingston.
It's like the free toy at the amusements. You never go to it.
This is just this blatant anti-bald co-winning guy bias, is this. But I'll just need to take my medicine. Right then, folks. Andy, thank you so much. A pleasure as always, big man.
No, my pleasure. For once.
Yes, I know. It's so rare for you to be on after a win. Although, in all fairness,
no protests, no bad noise. Just
get your rosette, get your big rattle, get your scarf that says "Go Gers."
RM.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was coming out, I filmed myself singing Martin Musty, hello.
You're such a big
My nephew was mortified.
Yeah, you're such a big troll.
He's like, genuinely, shut up.
No, you're such a big. You must be the absolute worst guy to go to a game with for a teenager, because he's a teenager, you're embarrassed by everything, but you go out your way to to embarrass him even further. You'd be even worse. You'd be totally ripping the piss right out of him. Right then, folks, thank you so much for joining us this week. And my thanks to our producers, Mike Lee and Paul Meyer. I will, of course, be back here next week after those Genk and Livingston games. Until then, have a great week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.